The first sign was not a ship, it was silence. One night, across many cities, the sky went strangely calm, as if the air was waiting. Satellites showed nothing unusual, and then, all at once, communications began to fade. Not fully off, not fully on, just weak enough to make people uneasy. Airports delayed flights, ships at sea reported distorted compasses, radio hosts joked about solar storms until their voices broke into static and died mid. The world felt a pressure it could not name. 2 days later, they arrived. They did not crash through the atmosphere. They did not burn like meteors. They simply appeared above the oceans, above deserts, above mountains, and above the largest capitals. They hovered in perfect stillness, enormous and quiet, like dark islands suspended in the sky. There were no windows, no lights, no visible engines. Some were shaped like long blades. Others were round, smooth, and featureless. Every nation's defense systems reacted, but nothing could lock onto them. Missiles lost guidance. Jets could not get a clear target. Drones returned with corrupted video. The ships waited. And then, a signal entered every screen on Earth at the same moment. Phones, televisions, billboards, tablets, even emergency broadcast radios. Everything showed the same image. A shifting emblem that looked like a line drawing of a mouth with sharp edges. Under it, words appeared in every language, as if the planet had been given one shared translation. Submit, offer tribute, be spared. The message did not threaten directly. It did not mention war. It did not list demands beyond obedience. But the meaning was clear. It was not a request. It was a verdict. Leaders met in underground rooms and protected video calls. They argued about strategy, about negotiation, about buying time. They asked the same question again and again. What do they want? But the more important question was one no one wanted to say out loud. What happens if humans refuse? In the first week, the ships did nothing more than remain. The world's economy trembled, not because of direct attacks, but because fear changes markets faster than bombs. People stocked food. Hospitals prepared for mass injuries. Faith groups prayed in crowded halls. Some citizens demanded surrender, believing that survival was worth any price. Others demanded resistance, even if it meant extinction. The planet split into camps, not by borders, but by belief. Then, the aliens began to measure. Small objects dropped from the hovering ships like seeds. They descended slowly, stopping mid-air, then moving again as if guided by invisible rails. These probes drifted over military bases, power stations, and communication hubs. Wherever they passed, machines stuttered, streetlights flickered, computers froze. The probes did not destroy anything, but they made it clear that they could turn the world's systems on and off, as easily as someone switches a lamp. General Mara Ellison watched one of these probes on a secure feed. She was not the loudest leader in the room. She did not slam tables or make speeches. She listened, she measured people, and she spoke only when she was certain. She had fought wars that did not make the news. She had learned that the strongest enemy is not the one who shouts, but the one who stays calm. Mara believed the aliens were calm. That was the terrifying part. At the Global Council meeting, many wanted a message of peace. They suggested offering resources, offering labor, offering territory. They believed humans could negotiate a softer form of submission. Mara listened and then asked a simple question. If they came all this way to ask us to kneel, why would they accept a bargain? Would you bargain with something you believe is lower than you? The room fell quiet. A scientist from South Asia, Dr. Samir Qureshi, spoke next. He had studied signals and patterns his entire career. He said the alien ships were broadcasting more than a demand. They were also broadcasting a field subtle, constant, and tuned to disrupt human electronics. They are not just threatening us, he said. They are shaping the battlefield before it begins. Days later, the aliens sent a second message. This time, it came with imagery, a brief video that showed another world. Its cities were empty. Its skies were filled with the same ships. The final frame showed a broken statue of a creature that looked like it had once stood proud. Under the image were 3 words. This is mercy. The message landed like a stone in the stomach. Mercy offered by a power that did not think of humans as equals. Mara saw the reaction, spreading through her people, fear turning into resignation. She knew that if the world begged, it would not be spared. It would be owned, and ownership does not end kindly. In a secure facility far from any coast, Mara met with a small group of commanders and scientists. The room was plain. No flags, no speeches. Only the kind of focus people have when they believe the next decision will decide the fate of everything they love. Dr. Samir showed them something new. It was a pattern in the alien signals, a repeating gap that occurred every few minutes. It's like a breath, he said. A small pause where the field weakens. Maybe it is a limit in their system? Mara leaned forward. If it weakens, she asked, can we push back? Samir did not smile. We might be able to hide inside the gap, he said. We might be able to move when they think we cannot. That night, Mara made her decision. Humanity would not beg. Humanity would not kneel. But it would also not rush blindly into a fight it could not win. If the enemy believed humans were desperate prey, then humans would become something else. They would become the kind of prey that bites. The next weeks were a lesson in patience. Mara understood that panic was the enemy's greatest weapon, and she refused to feed it. She ordered something that looked like surrender from the outside. Nations reduced flights. Ships stayed close to ports. Some weapons systems powered down, not because humans accepted defeat, but because they needed quiet. The aliens watched this and likely believed it was fear. That was useful. Fear makes an opponent predictable. Behind sealed doors. The real work began. Dr. Samir and his team studied the alien field like a storm. They mapped its frequency, its rhythm, its patterns. They discovered the gap was real. Every 3 minutes and 18 seconds, the field weakened for 4 seconds. It was not a full shutdown, but it was enough for certain machines to function normally, if they were prepared. For seconds sounded meaningless to politicians. 2 engineers. It sounded like a door that opened just wide enough to slip through. Mara formed a task group called the Quiet Line. It was not a big program with banners or public funding. It was a small collection of labs in different countries, each working on one goal: create systems that could operate in the gap. Old machines were pulled from storage: analog radios, mechanical guidance tools, optical targeting methods. Engineers rebuilt modern devices with shielding and timed bursts that aligned with the IFI 4-second window. It was not glamorous work. It was not cinematic. It was people hunched over benches at 3 a.m., testing again and again, failing, adjusting, failing again, until the smallest progress felt like victory. In the streets, people argued. Protests erupted. Some demanded peace at any cost. Others demanded immediate war. Mara ignored both extremes. She knew that a loud resistance without a plan is just a public suicide. She needed a resistance with teeth, not noise. The aliens continued to deploy probes. They floated over cities, scanning, humming softly, and leaving behind a feeling like static on the skin. But humans began to notice something. During the gap, the probes drifted slightly, as if their control weakened. It was subtle, but it was there. Like a predator blinking dot, Mara used the gap to run small tests. A drone, timed perfectly, rose into the sky during the 4 seconds. It carried a reflective panel and a simple camera. The moment it lifted, the alien field tried to smother it again. But the drone had already moved into a blind zone created by the panel. It vanished from the probe's easy detection, and for the first time, humanity had something it desperately needed: a way to see without being seen. The drone returned with images of the alien ship's underside. There were structures, their seams and ridges that were not visible from the ground. Not weapons. Exactly. More like organs. More like vents. Or ports. Or nodes. Dr. Samir pointed at one cluster. This might be where they generate the field, he said. Mara asked, can we touch it? Samir hesitated. Not with a missile. Guidance fails. But with something simple, timed in the gap, maybe. Mara understood what something simple meant. Not a perfect high-tech weapon. Something stubborn. Something physical. Something that does not need permission from electronics to fly straight. They built it like a spear. A launch system using old principles: compressed force, mechanical timing, optical tracking, a projectile with dense material, coded to reduce detection. It would be released during the gap, aimed at the node. And it would not rely on anything the alien field could scramble. When the first test was ready, they chose a remote zone at sea where one ship hovered alone. It had been watching shipping routes like a silent guard. There were no civilians, no cameras, only a small fleet hidden beneath cloud cover and the careful breathing of people who knew they were about to poke a giant. The countdown began. They waited for the gap. 4 seconds. The spear launched. For a moment, nothing happened. The projectile rose, silent, fast, straight. It reached the ship's underside and struck the node. The alien ship did not explode. It did not fall, but the field flickered. Lights in nearby vessels steadied. Radios cleared. Compasses stopped spinning. The pressure in the air eased, as if a hand had loosened its grip. The ship itself shifted just slightly. A movement like a surprise. Then, a new message appeared on screens across the world. It was shorter now, sharper. You resist. The next line came after a pause, as if the sender was considering a new approach. You will learn. Mara stared at the message and felt something she had not felt in weeks. Relief. Not because the enemy was pleased, but because the enemy had reacted. A predator does not react to prey it believes is harmless. That night, humans began building not just one spear, but thousands. They built them in secret. They built them in factories that once made cars and trains. They built them in underground hangars and mountain tunnels. They built them with hands that were tired but steady, driven by one shared belief: begging would not save them. The aliens wanted humans to kneel, so humanity prepared its bite. The aliens changed tactics first. They had expected surrender. When surrender did not come, they began to squeeze the world more tightly. The field grew stronger in certain regions. Power grids failed for hours. Hospitals switched to emergency systems. Satellites lost stability. It was not total collapse, but it was calculated pressure, designed to break morale. Mara watched the reports and felt the trap. If humans answered with anger, they would waste resources. If humans answered with fear, they would kneel. So she chose a third path: discipline. She ordered a global pattern of quiet nights. Cities reduced light. Air traffic stayed low. Ships moved only when needed. It looked like surrender again, but it was actually camouflage. During these quiet nights, the quiet line tested weapons and movement in the gap, improving timing 2 fractions of a second. Dr. Samir discovered another detail. The gap was not constant everywhere. It shifted based on distance from each ship. That meant each ship had its own rhythm, like a heartbeat. If humans could learn the heartbeat, they could strike when it blinked out. The first large counterstrike was not meant to destroy. It was meant to send a message in the only language the aliens respected: control. Over an empty desert where one ship hovered low, humanity launched a swarm of spears. They flew during successive gaps, like a coordinated wave. Each one struck a node, not all at once, but in a pattern that created growing disruption. The ship's field stuttered. Its probes dropped like insects with broken wings. For the first time since arrival, a ship moved away from its position quickly, as if retreating. People did not see this on the news. It was classified, but the aliens saw it. A new broadcast came hours later. This time there was no translation into friendly words. The message was raw, heavy, and clear even without language. It carried one meaning: warning. Soon after, the aliens sent something down. A single craft descended near a coastal military zone. It was smaller than the sky ships, shaped like a dark wedge. It landed silently and opened knots with a door, but with a seam that unfolded like a flower made of metal. A figure emerged. It was taller than a human, with long limbs and a smooth mask-like face. It wore no visible armor, yet it moved with confidence, as if nothing on Earth could harm it. Cameras captured it from a distance. Audio picked up a sound that was not speech, more like a series of controlled tones. Then the world's screens flashed again. Beg, live. The figure stood still, waiting. Mara did not send diplomats. She did not send soldiers with guns. She sent a box. The box was carried by a small robot, timed to move during the gap so it could approach without dying. The robot placed the box 10 meters from the alien figure and backed away. The box opened by itself. Inside was a simple human object, a mouthguard made for boxing, and beside it, a broken chain. It was a message without words. We are not here to beg, we are here to bite, and we will not wear your chains. The alien figure tilted its head, almost curious. Then it raised a hand. The robot froze instantly. The box lid snapped shut as if pushed by invisible force. The air around the figure shimmered, the alien field surged, and nearby electronics died in a wave. But Mara watched from a bunker and realized something important. The alien on the ground was a controller, a mobile extension of the field. That meant the enemy was not just ships. It was an entire system of control, and it could be carried close. So Mara changed the plan again. Instead of focusing only on ships, the quiet line began targeting the field's logic. They created decoy signals, false human communications that drew probes into traps. They built zones where the field's rhythm could be studied and exploited. They used mirrors, smoke, and old optical tricks, turning the enemy's advanced sensors into confused eyes. One night, the alien craft on the coast attempted to lift off. A spear struck its underside node during the gap. The craft did not crash violently, but it lost control and slid across sand like a heavy stone. The alien figure did not die. It simply stepped away, even in failure, and looked toward the sky. Then, for the first time, the hovering ships above that region began to reposition, as if responding to an emergency. Humans had found a nerve. Mara knew the next phase would be brutal, not because the aliens would suddenly become emotional, but because they would become efficient. They would stop offering mercy. They would move to punishment, and still, she felt no urge to beg, because humanity had finally done what it needed most. It had forced the invader to notice. The punishment did not come as fire. It came as isolation. The aliens targeted the planet's connection shipping routes, satellites, digital networks, and navigation systems. Entire regions struggled to communicate. Planes could not rely on modern guidance. Ports became quiet. Some nations turned inward. Fearful and angry, the aliens wanted the world to fracture. Mara understood the strategy immediately. A united planet is hard to control. A divided planet will beg on its own. So she turned the response into a story humans could share, even when screens were dark. She used radio, simple, old radio. Across the world, short transmissions began to appear at predictable times. They were spoken in basic language. They carried instructions and calm reminders. They carried one repeating line: do not beg, coordinate, survive, prepare. People listened in basements, cars, farms, and rooftops. The message moved like a heartbeat through the darkness, replacing panic with purpose. Meanwhile, the quiet line shifted from defense to planning a decisive strike. Dr. Samir's team had confirmed that the field nodes were part of a network. The ships shared load between them, like a web. If humans could disrupt several key ships at once, the web might collapse temporarily, long enough for human technology to return and for larger weapons to function. They could not destroy every ship. They did not need to. They needed a window. Mara arranged a synchronized operation across 3 oceans and 2 deserts. Thousands of spears were positioned. Teams waited for each ship's unique gap rhythm. It was like waiting for 5 different locks to click at the same time, On the chosen night, the sky looked normal to most people, but in hidden places, the world held its breath. Then the gaps aligned. Spears launched from submarines, from hidden rail systems, from mountain valleys. They rose in silence and struck nodes on multiple ships within seconds of each other. The effect rolled across the planet like a wave. The alien field flickered globally. Power grids steadied. Satellites regained stable signals. Radios cleared. Human systems, human control, returned for 37 minutes. Earth was free. Mara used those minutes like a blade. She ordered every defense system to lock onto the ships while it could, not to fire blindly, but to map, to learn, to record weak points. She ordered human fleets to move into new positions. She ordered research stations to upload everything they had into secure archives. She ordered factories to surge production. The aliens responded faster than expected. The field returned with a harsh pulse. Stronger than before, several ships fired beams not at cities, but at empty remote zones, as if demonstrating capability. The ground melted into glass. The message was clear. They could burn the world if they chose, and yet, they still did not. That restraint terrified the investigators watching. Restraint meant calculation. Calculation meant the enemy wanted Earth intact. For ownership, a new broadcast appeared. It was the last offer. Amara did not answer on screens. She answered through action. She ordered a human ship small, fast, and shielded by gap timing to rise into the lower sky and approach one alien vessel. It carried no explosives. It carried a single transmitter dot at the closest safe distance. It sent a human message in plain words. We do not beg, we do not kneel. We choose our own future. The human ship turned and escaped during the gap, barely surviving the field's returning pressure. The world did not cheer immediately. Many were still afraid, but something changed in the air. People began to understand that the aliens were not gods. They were powerful, yes, but not untouchable. And if they wanted obedience, they would have to earn it with more than intimidation. Mara prepared for the final stage. Not a final battle to wipe out the enemy, but a final statement to break the illusion that humans were weak. The aliens believed humans would beg when the pain grew, so humanity prepared its teeth. For the moment it mattered most. The final stage was not about winning in the way humans imagine victory. It was about forcing a future where humans could stand as equals, not pets. Mara knew Earth could not destroy the entire alien fleet, but Earth could prove something that changes how predators behave. It could prove that the prey is dangerous. Dr. Samir brought Mara a discovery that felt like a door opening. The alien field was not only a weapon, it was also a shield. It created a controlled bubble around the ships, bending signals and stopping modern targeting. But that shield relied on steady rhythm. It relied on the web. If humans could keep disrupting the web repeatedly, the shield would never fully stabilize. Mara did not plan one big punch. She planned a series of bites. Across the planet, quiet line teams executed strikes in cycles. Not random, not emotional, precise. Each strike targeted a different set of ships, timed to their gaps, disrupting the field in waves that overlapped. The aliens began shifting ships to protect damaged nodes. Probes were redeployed to hunt spear launch points. The Sky Fleet moved more often now, no longer relaxed. The enemy was adapting, so did humans. Mara launched decoy factories that produced noise and heat, drawing probes away from real sites. She used civilian-looking cargo routes to move parts quietly. She trained new teams in remote regions to keep the network alive even if one center was destroyed. Then came the moment that changed everything. An alien ship descended lower than before, over a major coastal region, perhaps to intensify control, perhaps to prepare a display of dominance. It hovered like a shadow over the water, close enough that people on shore could see its outline even through haze. Panic rose. News anchors spoke with shaking voices. Citizens begged leaders to surrender before the real attack. Mara chose that moment to answer. Not with words, with teeth. Thousands of spears launched in a perfect sequence, not all at once, but like steps in a dance. Each wave struck a different node, creating a cascade of instability. The ship's field collapsed in pulses. The underside seams became visible. For the first time, human missiles guided during a long engineered gap created by overlapping disruptions locked on. Mara still did not order mass destruction. She ordered a single controlled strike at a non-city facing section of the ship's structure. The impact was sharp and contained. The ship did not explode, but it shuddered, tilted, and slowly rose higher, retreating from the coast as if wounded, and suddenly cautious. People watched the retreat with disbelief, not because they enjoyed it, but because it proved something they had not dared to hope. The giant could be forced back. Screens flashed again with a new alien message. It was no longer confident. It was no longer offering mercy. It carried the cold anger of a predator that has been embarrassed. You are costly. Mara smiled for the first time in months. Costly. That word meant negotiation. That word meant respect, even if reluctant. Predators do not negotiate with prey unless the prey can hurt them. The alien fleet did not leave immediately. It repositioned into higher orbit. The field remained, but weaker in many regions, as if the enemy chose to conserve power and avoid further damage. Probes were reduced. Pressure decreased. Earth did not celebrate like a movie ending. There were still shortages, fear, and grief. But the planet stood taller. Communities rebuilt. Engineers kept improving. Children grew up hearing the same story told in simple words. The day humans did not kneel. In a quiet room, Mara met with Samir again. He asked the question that mattered more than tactics. Do you think they will return harder? Mara looked at the sky through thick glass. Maybe, she said. But if they do, they will remember this. Samir nodded. That we refused to beg. That we bared our teeth, Mara corrected. Years later, the investigators who studied the invasion did not describe the moment as a victory. They described it as a turning point. Humanity did not defeat a superior power. Humanity changed the rules of how it would be treated, and that is why the title remained true. They thought humans would beg, but humans bared their teeth.